Nike didn't just dominate basketball, they shaped it. They weren't just part of the culture, they created it. For decades, the swoosh wasn't just stamped on sneakers. It was stitched into MVPs, finals runs, and every moment that made basketball legendary. They built icons, Jordan, Kobe, LeBron. They turned sneakers into symbols, and they made basketball bigger than the game. But today, something's changed. Nike no longer controls the conversation or the athletes. The brand that once signed every star is now watching them walk away. So how did Nike go from owning the league to becoming a company its own stars are fleeing? The answers? They aren't just surprising, they're expensive. They lost Steph Curry before he became a two-time MVP. They dropped Kyrie Irving, even though his shoe line was one of the most popular in the world. They bet big on Ja Morant right before he imploded. And Zion? His Nike sneaker exploded 30 seconds into a nationally televised game with President Obama watching courtside. That single moment cost Nike $1.1 billion in stock value. Not because of a bad shoe, because of shattered trust. Today, players aren't lining up for the newest Nike. They're lacing up retro Kobes from 10 years ago. New stars are signing with Adidas, Puma, Anta, even New Balance. The brand that once set the pace is now playing catch-up. This isn't just a story about sneakers. It's about power, control, and what happens when a giant starts to stumble. Welcome to NBA Explained. And today we are diving deep into why NBA stars are leaving Nike. Nike's empire begins. Before Nike ruled basketball, they were barely invited to the game. In the early 80s, the NBA belonged to Converse. The streets rocked Adidas. And Nike? They were a running shoe brand, unknown, unproven, and completely out of place on the hardwood. But in 1984, Nike made the boldest bet in sports marketing history. They signed a rookie. No rings, no hype, just a 21-year-old named Michael Jordan. And Nike didn't just sign him. They built around him. They gave him $500,000 per year. His own line, his own logo, and a shot at becoming something bigger than a player, a brand. Then came the moment that changed everything. Jordan laced up the black and red Air Jordan 1s. The NBA banned them, fined him $5,000 every game. Nike paid it without hesitation and flipped the fine into a firestorm of marketing. That line launched a revolution. Kids didn't just want to wear sneakers. They wanted to wear rebellion, be like Mike, soar like Jordan, own a piece of something iconic. By the end of the decade, Nike wasn't just in the league. They were controlling the culture. They weren't chasing stars. Stars were chasing them. Once Jordan opened the door, Nike didn't just walk through it. They ran the entire floor. The golden age of Nike basketball. The 90s were dominance on every level. Charles Barkley had attitude. Penny Hardaway had flair. Scottie Pippen had grit. Each got their own signature line. Each became part of the Nike machine. But it wasn't just about stars. It was about style. Air Max, Foamposite, up-tempo. Kids didn't just watch their heroes. They wore them. Then came the 2000s. Nike's peak. They landed the perfect trio. Kobe, LeBron, KD. 3 different play styles. 3 different personalities. One brand. Kobe made low tops lethal. Sleek, light, deadly. He cared about performance like an engineer, and Nike let him innovate. LeBron was the powerhouse. His shoes were tanks, built for speed and muscle, just like he was. KD's line was the smoothest, clean, minimal, affordable, designed for everyday hoopers, not just stars. And the results? Unmatched. Kobe's became the go-to for elite guards. LeBron's sold by the millions. KD's became the gym rat default. Nike wasn't just outfitting the NBA, they were everywhere. From high school gyms, to rec leagues, to Olympic podiums, the swoosh didn't represent one player anymore. It represented an era. This was Nike's dynasty. Their Jordan moment had turned into a movement. Their athletes weren't just endorsers, they were global brands. Their shoes weren't just sneakers, they were currency. For over a decade, Nike didn't chase the game. They owned it. But the very empire Nike built, the one fueled by creative freedom, athlete identity, and cultural dominance, is now exactly what stars are leaving to find somewhere else. The day Nike lost Steph Curry. In 2013, Steph Curry walked into Nike headquarters, expecting to be valued. He left knowing he was just a name on a slide, and not even the right one. Nike already had him under contract. His game was rising. His influence was real. All they had to do was show up. Instead, they butchered the pitch. One Nike executive mispronounced his name. The presentation deck still had Kevin Durant's name on it, copy-pasted from a previous meeting. And when Curry asked about a signature shoe, Nike said no. He wasn't at that level yet. That was the moment. Curry was out, and Under Armour stepped in. They gave him everything Nike wouldn't. His own signature line, full branding support, creative control. It was a gamble. At the time, Under Armour barely had a basketball identity. But then, Steph lit the league on fire. Back-to-back MVPs, a championship, a revolution in how basketball is played. The Curry one sold out. The Curry two outsold LeBron's. And suddenly, kids weren't just copying Steph's shot. They were wearing his shoes to try it themselves. Nike had built an empire by spotting greatness early. This time, they missed. Badly. Steph didn't just become a global icon. He did it outside the swoosh, in a sneaker not named after Jordan or LeBron. And Nike? They never recovered that part of the market. It wasn't just a missed opportunity. It was the moment Nike looked human, and Steph became a legend. On his own terms. Zion, Ja, and the collapse of trust. Nike's empire wasn't built overnight, but cracks can form in a second. February 20th, 2019. Duke versus UNC. National TV. Sold-out arena. President Obama sitting courtside. Zion Williamson, the most hyped prospect since LeBron, plants his foot, and his Nike PG 2.5 explodes. The entire shoe rips apart. Zion hits the floor, clutching his knee. 30 seconds into the game, and Nike just suffered a billion-dollar blowout. Literally. The next day, Nike stock dropped $1.1 billion. One shoe failure, and global trust slipped with it. Nike had always sold performance as their strongest claim. Now people were asking, can their shoes even hold up? Then came Ja Morant, Nike's next big thing. Young, electric, fearless. The Ja one was built to carry the brand into the next decade. But instead of highlights, Ja made headlines, flashing guns on Instagram, suspended twice by the league. His name became bigger off the court than on it. And Nike? They stood behind him quietly. No ad campaign. No accountability. No direction. Trust doesn't just break when a shoe blows out. It breaks when the athletes you build around start pulling you down. Morant was supposed to be the future. Zion was supposed to be unbreakable. But Nike got hit with back-to-back branding disasters. One physical, one personal. For decades, Nike controlled the narrative. Now, the stories were writing themselves, and they weren't flattering. The shoes were breaking. The stars were imploding. The myth of Nike's invincibility was finally unraveling. The rise of the rivals. For years, Nike didn't just dominate basketball. They defined it. They had the most stars, the most sales, the most influence. But then the challengers showed up. Louder, smarter, hungrier. And the stars Nike once expected to lock down, they started choosing someone else. Adidas locked down James Harden, Damian Lillard, and Donovan Mitchell. They leaned into storytelling. Let their athletes lead. Under Armour pulled off the sneaker heist of the decade. Steph Curry and built a billion-dollar brand around him. Puma entered the game loud and flashy, signing LaMelo Ball, Scoot Henderson, and an entire generation raised on social media, not brand loyalty. New Balance went quiet and calculated. Kawhi Leonard, Jamal Murray, minimalist, unbothered, different. And Anta? They were the punchline, until they signed Klay Thompson, and then stole Kyrie Irving. Kyrie's line wasn't just a sneaker. It was a movement. Built for hoopers, priced for everyone, loved by guards, worn in every gym. The Kyrie 4, 5, and 6 were instant classics. Then came the split. Kyrie publicly called out Nike for releasing a shoe without his approval. Then he posted a controversial link that set off a firestorm. Nike cut ties. Just like that, their most wearable signature line, gone. Anta gave Kyrie something Nike wouldn't. Full creative control. And when he signed, his loyal fan base followed. What Nike lost wasn't just a player. It was a community. And then came Anthony Edwards. Explosive, marketable, a prototype Nike athlete. But he didn't sign with Nike. He signed with Adidas, another rising star gone. Nike still leads the league in numbers. But the rivals, they're surrounding the throne. The culture left Nike behind. Nike didn't just sell sneakers. They sold culture. But somewhere along the way, the culture kept moving. And Nike didn't. Today, most NBA players don't wear the newest Nikes. They wear retro Kobes, models from 5, 10, even 15 years ago. On any given night, you'll see a full roster laced in Proto 6s or Grinch 5s. Not Ja 1s, not GT cuts, not whatever's newest, because what's new doesn't hit like what's timeless. Kobe's shoes became the unofficial uniform of serious hoopers, not because Nike pushed them, but because the players chose them. The irony? Nike let Kobe's contract lapse after his death. Fans were furious. Players hoarded pairs, prices skyrocketed. Nike scrambled to fix it, but the damage was done. They didn't protect the legacy that was carrying their culture. Off the court, sneakerheads stopped caring about general releases. Nike's drops became overpriced, overhyped, and instantly resold. Accessibility disappeared. Innovation stalled. Every new model started to feel like a remix of a remix. Meanwhile, young stars entering the league, they weren't chasing swoosh deals. NIL changed everything. Now Adidas, Puma, and even Chinese brands can offer equity, control, and creative freedom. The same things Nike once reserved for the elite. Nike didn't just lose athletes. They lost authenticity. They lost connection. And in a world driven by TikTok, resale apps, and shifting trends, Nike no longer feels like the culture. They feel like the corporation trying to catch up to it. The kids aren't chasing swooshes anymore. They're chasing meaning. Can Nike reclaim the throne? Nike still leads the industry in raw numbers. More players, more sales, more legacy. But the aura? It's fading. The culture is shifting. Players want control. Fans want authenticity. And the swoosh? It's not setting trends anymore. It's chasing them. For decades, Nike wrote the script. Now, the stars are writing their own. They want equity, input, and a seat at the table. And if Nike can't offer that, they'll keep walking away. Because the new generation of hoopers isn't chasing logos. They're building their own legacies. Nike can still bounce back. They still have the resources, the platform, the global reach. But if they don't evolve, they won't just lose deals. They'll lose the future of basketball. This is NBA Explained. Subscribe for more stories that go beyond the court. And as always, stay locked in.